Hi there, you're watching a very special episode on CNBC TV18.com's Power of Women. This is an incredibly special series celebrating powerful women, and who better than the melodious, the powerful Anoushka Shankar joining in on our show. A big fan of her music. Her father took India to the world, and now Anoushka is treating the world as a playground. Thank you so much, Anoushka, for joining in on this special occasion, on this special show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, you know, because we're talking about the power of women and you embody that so well, the first question that begets asking is, what exactly, according to you, does it mean to be a woman? As an artist, does the gender play an important role in the way your craft and your art evolves?
It's a good question, but it's a difficult one to answer because obviously I'm making music from my own experience, from my own lived experience, and my gender is a part of that. But it's hard for me to quantify in what way in my art. A lot of the music I make, a lot of the work I do has to do with not just my own personal experiences as a woman and as a human being, but also what I see around me in the world. And I think perhaps that's where gender maybe comes into play a little bit more, because I'm often drawn to making music in response to, you know, injustice that I see around me or happening to me or to other people. And obviously then gender comes into play a lot more.
Right, fair point. But, you know, if you take a look at the craft or the art that you learned earlier was Hindustani classical music. Now, traditional Indian music, as I know, you know, we've seen women, it's been rather unequal because we've seen women being asked to step aside by chauvinistic men, not a lot of women representation out there. How do you deal with that? Has that happened to you?
So, you know, we often talk about intersectionality when we speak about elements of privilege and also difficulty. And I think it's important for me to own the fact that whilst I'm a woman, I've also been someone that has been the daughter of someone, you know, incredibly notable. So I've also had a lot of doors open to me as an artist that may have countered perhaps several experiences I may have had as a woman if I hadn't had that opportunity at the same time. So I need to acknowledge that and say I've been very fortunate as well. But I think Indian classical music, actually, there is a pretty strong presence of women, especially vocalists. And if you look at Carnatic music, you'll see an even more egalitarian representation between men and women on the instrumentalist side as well. And I'm not quite sure why that representation isn't as equal on the Hindustani side. But we have a fairly strong presence of women. But where it falls off for me is when it starts to move into being a professional musician, being a touring musician. And I think we have to look behind the music world and look into society as a whole, where I don't believe we're structurally set up to support women the same way as a society as men, to be that kind of touring musician who's front and center, traveling around. Once they have a family, once they get married, there are certain expectations that come into play that then change their opportunities. And so I think it's more than music. I think it's society as a whole that needs to be looked at.
Is it just the Indian society or is it global as well? Because we have seen really big pop stars, global icons who are women, and out there it seems a lot more equal than what is in India back home. And what are you doing at your position to make this equality or narrow this inequality?
I'm not a fan of those kind of India versus the West kind of answers, because I don't think it's as simplistic as that.
Right.
But I think, you know, you may observe, as you just said, that there may seem to be more opportunities for women in the West. However, it's still far from equal, and I think that's the focus. You know, if we look across the board in any field, art as well, because that's what I'm speaking about. You know, there's festivals being booked in the UK this summer, for example, where we're currently talking about how 90% of the artists booked at certain festivals were men and only 10% were women. So we can't say that it's great in the West either. And as far as what I'm doing about it, I guess I try and use the space that I've got and in multiple ways. So one is on a personal front as a musician. I've started in the last few years looking at the way that I work. Am I hiring 50% women? Am I working with, you know, female engineers and lighting designers behind the scenes, or are they all men? That's something that I've really put change into in the last few years. I've recently been named the president of a beautiful organization called the F List, which is a database of UK-wide musicians and people working in the music industry to help bridge that gap so people have a one-stop shop they can type in and find artists. If they're saying it's because they don't exist, they do, and we're helping show them where they are. And then also in music as well. I mean, as you know, I've got a song out this week that's just come out called Sister Susanna, which is talking about domestic abuse. It's talking about coercive control. It's talking about all the angles of that we maybe don't speak about all the time that are behind some of the more obvious aspects of it, which we do understand.
Absolutely. I heard the song. It's quite a provoking song, if not, it makes us feel important about these issues. One of those songs I'd like to go back to, one of your tracks, In Jyoti's Name, is a tribute to the horrific incident that took place in Delhi about 8-9 years ago. 8-9 years hence, things haven't changed much. What should be done according to you?
I mean, I don't feel like I can give an answer about what should be done about it. There are other people who are better versed than I am, but you're absolutely right that things haven't changed enough or fast enough, and that's globally. And one of the things that can be done about it is continuing to fight, continuing to talk. But obviously there's a kind of legal and criminal justice system side to that as well. But there's a society side to that where we need to create the kind of climate where women can speak, women can come forward, where women are believed, where they're supported and not shamed. So there's so many angles to this very, very big issue. But I think one thing we can all do is to commit to be a part of it moving forwards, to commit to being a part of progress rather than stasis.
Absolutely, and in that, one has to give massive kudos to you for coming out and speaking about all the things that you faced during one of the Ask Me Anythings that you did on an online forum. And not just that, you've actually been quite vocal about a lot of women-related issues, be that something as personal as you having to remove a few of your lady parts if you must, talking about your gynecological history. I'm sure that would have empowered a lot of women to come by and talk to you about it or talk in the open. How was that response?
I mean, it's been amazing. I mean, I suppose the first time I did anything like that was when I spoke out about having been abused as a child, around the time of Nirbaya's horrific attack. And that was part of a climate of realizing that you could speak, you could share your story, and a lot of people started to come forward after that, and there's a freedom in that. And then similarly, a few years later, when I was due to have a hysterectomy due to, lots of complications that I'd gone through, I realized that it was something so common, and it was something that, 50% of the world's population are dealing with in one way or another, and yet it's not commonly spoken about. And I realized how much my health had been affected by not having easy access to information, by not knowing who to ask about certain things, and that maybe I would have had a much better experience over my entire, life since I was 11, 12, 13, had that been available to me. And I had that past experience of knowing that sharing about abuse had been a positive experience for me and for other people. So I just trusted that experience, and I trusted that maybe if I shared my story, it would help other people as well. And I was really heartened to get a lot of feedback from women in particular, and men who maybe started to understand some aspects of things they didn't understand before, but particularly women who said, oh my God, I thought I was suffering this alone. And that's a horrible feeling. As soon as you realize you're not alone, it's really a part of healing.
Absolutely, we get that, and again, you're following the roots of being what you aspired to be or what you aspired to have, the person that you didn't have. But, talking about all of this, motherhood comes to mind because it's considered as an important part of everyone's life, more so a woman's life. And a lot of people think of it as career breakers because there's this leaky bucket syndrome. As far as you're concerned, with all the problems that you had, with all the pains and tribulations, you still went ahead, performed into the advanced stages of your pregnancy as well. How has motherhood been for you, your art as well as parenting?
So, I mean, motherhood has been profoundly incredible for me as a person and as an artist. But I quickly want to say, when you said earlier that it's like the most amazing thing everyone can do, and I think that's a tricky sentence because not everyone can do it,
right.
and that's an important thing to acknowledge. And also, not everyone wants to do it, and I think that's important to acknowledge as well. It was a choice for me. It was not an automatic next progression as a woman that I would become a mother. And having made that choice, then I was faced with a lot of difficult choices, like most mothers are, about how to then balance personal life, motherhood, relationship, career. And we're kind of spoon-fed this illusion that somehow now that can be easy and we can have it all. And it's not that easy. It's not laid out for us. It's just not. And I experienced a lot of that only once I became a mother. I started to understand those difficulties. And I've had to make a lot of choices, and I've had to change the way that I do my work. It can't be the way that it was before, and it no longer comes first. My children come first, and I try and fulfill my purpose as an artist, and also hopefully have a career alongside that the best that I can.
That's a rather candid admission coming in from you. It's interesting because I was reading about you, and you said that your mother was the one who nurtured you and was the parent, so to say, while your father was the guru. In your case, you're also the traveling musician, you're also the mother. How do you manage? And I'm sure there's a lot of practice, there's a lot of inspiration that comes to you. You would find it difficult balancing both?
New motherhood in particular can be such a destabilizing time, even though it's also an amazing time. And I remember looking around at these women who seemed to do it all, and thinking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do that? And I think it's really important to acknowledge that and say, I can't do it all. I can't do everything on my own. There's no way I would be able to write an album and raise my children perfectly on my own at the same time. I do it with help. I have my mother, I have my family, I have a whole network of people that help support me. So when I do choose to go and be busy, there's a team of other people that can step in and be present for my children, and then straight away I can come back again and take that role again. So if anyone looks and goes, oh God, how's she doing it? How come I can't do that? I'm not doing it alone.
so what does an Anoushka Shankar day look like?
We wake up quite early. I get the kids breakfast. We make their lunch boxes. We get ready for school. I take them to school. Then while they're in school, thank God right now, after a long period of not being in school, I get as much work done in school hours. And then in the afternoon, we play games, we do play dates, or, obviously now in lockdown, that's a bit different. And then we eat, maybe we watch a movie if it's a weekend, and I do some more work after the kids go to bed.
And what if in the middle of all of this, a really inspiring idea comes to you? You've got to put it to paper or some way.
It's different, I mean, the whole of Love Letters, my last EP, was made with other mothers predominantly. And we worked in a way that I'd never worked before. We can't work through the night the same way and just wake up late after working till 4 a.m. because inspiration struck, And so I've had to learn to be disciplined about my creativity and, show up in the times that I can so that the creativity has a channel in that time. And then I have to put it down and turn around and go and be with my kids. And that's just how it is.
Well, from motherhood, let's talk about your father. Your father's legacy lives on. And what do you think will be the best way to pay tribute to it? He took India to the world. What are you doing to make us proud? I mean, you have done phenomenal amounts to make us all proud.
I don't know if anyone can, pay homage or continue a legacy in a way that does my father and what he did justice. So I don't have an answer for that. All I can do is do my best. And, I think for him, such a priority for him was sharing his music and his culture, which he loved so dearly, with the world. And that, really has shaped, 20th century culture and music globally to such a degree that I think all my, fellow disciples of my father and myself can do is just continue that, but continue that in a way that is authentic to us as individuals as well, because that's what he would want too.
Your craft not only demands discipline and a lot of learning and constantly practicing, it is also physically tiresome. I've seen a lot of pictures put by you on social media about your fingers almost not being there. They're split in various places. How do you keep it going? What keeps inspiring you? And despite all the physical pain and troubles that you have to endure, what keeps you sane?
I love it. What can I say? I love it. I love this music. It feeds me as well. I'm an artist, and getting to make work that other people will listen to. There's nothing more beautiful than that. And as far as what sustains me, I think I'm the kind of artist where I need other things as well. Like the art on its own doesn't sustain me. I will burn out if I focus exclusively on that. I need grounding. I need a spiritual connection. I need close friends around me. I need to feel like I have good self-care in my life around yoga and how I eat, and those things that help me stay balanced and grounded as well. And then I continually have more to give to my music as well.
You're a role model for a lot of people out there, not just little girls, but everyone, even men included. What would your message to all of them be, the ones who want to be even close to where you are right now?
Do you mean in an artistic sense?
Artistic sense, professional sense, the sense of success, every way.
Um, I think, this stuff sounds really cheesy when you say it in words, but I think the best thing I can say is like find and be connected to who you are, like truly who you are, deeply, not here but here, and stay authentic to that. In your music, in your work, whatever it may be, you have something unique in you that no one else can give to the universe. So if you know what that is and you share it, it has value, and people will listen and people will be moved by it. And similarly, as a human being, I think we all have a deep intuition and an inner voice that is, universally kind and loving. And I think if we connect to that sense of who we are, then a lot of the kind of other ways that we may behave in society, the things we may do, perhaps we can see a little deeper than that, and perhaps we can be open to change and learning and growth.
You've always been a vocal proponent of liberty, life, freedom, and artistic expression. Do you think the environment back home is conducive for artists to be as open in their expression of their art?
I think that freedom of expression and freedom of speech are key. And I think without that, it's difficult to be. I don't think it's difficult to express oneself artistically. We can always still find ways to do that. But I favor a situation where we can all support each other to say beautiful things, but to say challenging things as well, to listen to each other, even when we don't agree with each other. There was a quote from Voltaire years ago where he said, "I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it."
That's correct.
And I think that was something that really influenced me as a teenager. And it showed me that, like, you may be wrong or I may be wrong, but if we curtail each other's ability to say what it is, then we're never going to learn. We're never going to grow. We're going to live in this massive, echo chamber where nothing is examined. And I don't think that's a very safe experience personally or artistically.
Right. You spoke about the experiences that you had as a child and the not so pleasant experiences of actually being abused. Apart from speaking out, were there other things that helped you, come out of all the bad memories?
Yeah, no, I don't recommend just speaking out and exposing oneself in an unsafe way. Sharing that vulnerable stuff is really tricky. I mean, I'm in a fortunate situation where I can afford therapy, and I've had a lot of therapy, and I think there are certain things that, we need to hand over to people who have the skills to help. So if people have the means and the access to therapy, I highly, highly recommend it for difficult situations like that.
And amidst all of this, how did the music move? Were there, you had, Picasso having his blue period, the red period, all the other colors of his life. How did that go with you?
I don't know. I'm still drawing, I guess. I'm still choosing. I don't know what phase I'm in now or what phase I was in. I think all of those things are easier in hindsight. So maybe if someone in the future cares to look back, they may label phases of mine, but I don't have a sense of those.
So foresight, what do you have in terms of music right now? What are your inspirations, and what are the dreams that you have which you wish to harbor?
So I'm currently releasing a few songs over the next few months that are connected to the Love Letters EP I released last year. It's called Love Letters PS, and it's like a follow-up of songs that are an extension of that concept. And then post that, I'm working on a new album, which is very different. And maybe I'll talk to you about some other time in the future.
Just a personal question, from my end, as a fan, Breathing Underwater 2, is that coming anytime soon?
I would be open to it. I have to check with Kirsch and Gaurav and the team, but yeah, getting to work with them on that album a long time ago now was deeply fulfilling and a lot of fun. So I'd definitely be open to it.
7 times nominee for Grammy. That itself is a crazy achievement. How do you keep your sense of perspective there? How do you stay sane again?
I mean, losing is a good perspective checker, I think. It's a humbling experience to lose as much as it's a gratifying experience to be nominated. So that roller coaster in itself is a perspective checker. But I always try and stay focused on the fact that, like, obviously if I were to win one day, I would be happy. I'm not pretending I wouldn't care. But at the same time, that doesn't subjectively change the quality of my art or who I am as a person. So I feel very aware of that. Like it's great to be nominated for XYZ, and it can be good on your calling cards for people to label you that way, but it doesn't ultimately mean anything about the work I make.
Before we let you go, Anoushka, what gives you hope? What makes you fearful?
I mean, it's the same answer, really. It's the world and it's people. When I wake up and look at the news, some days I'm fearful. It's one horrible thing after another, and the state of the planet, and all of that feels like it's too big to fix sometimes. But then on the flip side, there's other experiences, whether it's, my children and how idealistic and hopeful they can be, or, what it feels like to really connect with another human being, a good friend, or to make art or be dancing together, or when you see in the news that some kids somewhere planted 100 trees, and you realize that for every negative story, there's also a positive story. And I guess, choose to latch on to those hopeful stories because they help me to be hopeful. And it's important for me to be hopeful because it takes hope in order to make an effort. If I didn't believe anything would make a difference, then I wouldn't bother trying. And if we all felt that way, then it does become hopeless. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I have to find hope in order to try to make a difference. And then that difference will be self-evident.
Hope is what the world thrives on. Thank you, Anoushka, so much for joining in and telling your story to us. Will help a lot of people. Now, I usually ask people to, hum a couple of lines. In your case, I would have loved for you to have a sitar on you, but you have been dabbling in vocals. Just to end this, hum a line.
No, honestly, I get so nervous about singing for people. I'm not going to do it, but thank you for asking.
Not even for the millions of women who are watching for you?
I love them. I say hello, and I'll leave it there.
All right. Thank you so much, Anoushka. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.